Hello, boys and girls of Nat Geo, and welcome to our afternoon game drive. And we're coming to you live from the Masai Mara Triangle in Kenya. And out in the background there, you can see those big, huge animals, and we call those buffaloes. Look at that huge number of buffaloes there, and I welcome you very much. And my name is David, and with me on camera today is Manu. Manu, good afternoon. Are you excited for the kids today? We are very happy to have you on board. Remember, we request you along the drive to ask us questions through your parents or guardians, writing us emails on natgeokids@worldearth.tv. Should you also have nice comments, you can also send them through the same. I got some surprise for you. What about that, boys and girls? These are two lionesses. Sometimes we say lions, but if it's females, we say lionesses. And casting the final control is very nice. And it's very normal because lions belong to a group of animals that we call cats. And just like the cats I'm sure you all have at home, they tend to sleep a lot. And that's why these two lionesses, you see them sleepy, and what you see that one doing is just like panting or breathing. It's better if you say panting than breathing, because it's a bit warm here where we are, and it's about 30 degrees Celsius and 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That is quite warm. Now, we have shown you two cats. We might show you some different two other animals all the way in South Africa.
Look at that. I have got a very lovely sighting here of the elephants trying to have something to eat this afternoon. You can see that it's quite a very small group there. We can see a mother and a little one. A very, very good afternoon and welcome to the beginning of the kids show. I am Sydney Pumulane Mikosi. I am traveling with Dave, who is my camera operator. We are going to try by all means and give you the best wildlife experience ever. Kids, don't forget to ask your parents to send us questions on netgeokids@wildearth.tv. So you can see that these elephants are looking, they are feeding on this dry vegetation, because this vegetation to us, it looks dry, but these elephants knows that this bush is not dry at all. It is just drying on the outside, but inside there is still quite a lot of nutrients by these trees. So look at that ear. If you look at the elephant's ear, it is like an African map. When drawing the map of Africa, it is like an elephant ear. Amazing. So the elephants can be able to eat quite a lot. So they can spend 18 to 20 hours just feeding and only relax 2 to 4 hours a day. There is a bird there next to the elephant. You can see this is what is called a fork-tailed rongo. You can see the tail is like a fork. This bird is walking with these elephants, catching the insects when the elephants are feeding. As they are moving, insects will be flying up. So now let's go to one of my colleagues, Tristan, who's got a lovely spotted cat.
We do indeed. It's very exciting because we're with one of our favorite kitties that we see out here. It is Hosanna, and well, you can see he's having a lazy day, having a bit of a stretch and having a bit of a sleep. As Sydney said, my name is Tristan on camera. I've got Senzo, and it is a very, very, very big welcome to all of you that have joined us this afternoon. Remember to ask lots of questions by telling your parents and all your older siblings to send them through on natgeokids.wildearth.tv, or at wildearth.tv, should I say. there. But now you'll see that this leopard, he's going to be very sleepy. It's because the weather is terrible today. The weather is cold, it's windy, there's lots of rain that's falling, and so it's not nice weather at all for an animal to be too active. Now you will also notice that his tummy's quite full, and so those kind of things of being full and bad weather means that I'm pretty sure Hosana is going to have a really lazy afternoon, and he's going to sit close to this tree where he can stay out of the rain a little bit, and he's going to have the best nap that he possibly can. And so he's going to lie on his side like this, and he'll probably just rest nicely, and he can rest kind of quite out in the open because there's no sun today that's going to make him kind of too warm, and so it's the perfect spot for him just to spend his day and kind of really take it easy. He was fortunate last night because he managed to find himself some food, and that's why his tummy is quite full, and so he's eaten during the night last night and this morning, and that means that he's now kind of ready for a proper good nap where he can sleep away this horrible weather, in the hope that it will go by the end of this evening. Hopefully we won't have this rain anymore. So it's very, very good that he has managed to find food. It means he doesn't have to worry too much about trying to find it in this horrible kind of conditions. Now, I believe a lot of you are happy to see him. We're all happy to see him. He's our favorite cat, and we see him quite regularly these days. I mean, we often see him, you know, through most of the week, but it's always nice when he makes an appearance for the afternoon show for you and comes out, because he really is the best kind of cat to watch. He's playful and he's got lots of youth and exuberance, and that means that he's, you know, a great catch to watch because he's just often quite busy. Obviously this afternoon he's quite sort of tired and just taking a bit of a rest, but he can be quite a kind of handful and can run around all over the place. Right, now while our cat is very sleepy and we hope that he'll wake up soon, it sounds like Sydney's got something that's far more active than what Hosana is.
You can see that the elephants, they are busy trying to debug all the small pieces of wood here from the bush. Look at that. So the elephants can be able to talk to us, make use of the ears and the trunks. When the elephants are not happy, it's very easy to read because they are going to swing the head and flap the ears. Sometimes they even throw the trunk, which is an easy communication. So these animals can be able to dig very big holes. Look at what he's doing, that one. He is trying to dig there. It means he is trying to get something from under the ground. Look at that. Look at that. So you can see that these legs, they look very much big, and they use them for walking and in order for digging. Elephants can be able to create their own small dams, which can end up becoming very big dams in future. So where this elephant has just dug now, when the rain comes, it's going to collect water. Brenda, this is the first animals I am seeing today here, but considering the weather here by Juma at the moment, I am hoping to see quite a lot of different animals. And these elephants, I'm just seeing 1, 2, 3, it's just 5 of them at the moment, so it's quite a very small herd. So you can see it's very much difficult at this stage for the animals to get camouflaged. So they cannot easily hide because the trees don't have quite a lot of leaves to hide them. So elephants, you can easily find them because from a distance you can hear them pushing down and breaking the trees. And you can also smell them. So the body smell of the elephants, you can pick it up from very far. So you can see that the wind is too much. The trees there where these elephants are, the wind is just blowing. So now let's go to the Masai Mara where Brent is having some sleeping lions. Maybe they're going to wake up for you to see. Let's see what is going to happen.
Well, even with a lot of wind, you will notice elephants don't get very worried by the wind. And it will be the same case with the lions here. Here we are in the Masai Mara Triangle. It's very quiet. As you can see, the wind is very still. And these lionesses are just enjoying the nap. And as I told you earlier, Just like the cats you have at home, lions also tend to sleep the same. Of all the cats we have in Africa, lions sleep most. Sometimes we have made jokes and called lions the kings of the jungle because lions do not have as many enemies. If these cats were cheetahs or leopards, maybe they would not be sleeping as much, but lions are not bothered by many other animals or other predators. The bush they are sleeping under is called orange-leaved croton, and we are going to show you those leaves. You look at those leaves carefully. You see the color of some of the leaf, like that one there? That leaf looks like the color of an orange. That's how the oranges look like here in Africa. I don't know how they look like back home, but that's why we call this particular bush orange-leaved croton. Now, this bush has very special properties. Flies do not love this bush. And for that reason, these lions are so clever, they'll come and lie under this bush because they know the big flies will not disturb them. Remember, boys and girls, to keep asking us questions, or should you have any comments, you may send through your parents on email, worldearth, nutjokids@worldearth.tv, or through your guardians. Lions, we say they are carnivores, and saying they are carnivores, they eat meat. Unlike the elephants that were with Sydney, which will eat grass and other stuff that we call vegetarians or herbivores, these ones here will only eat meat. For example, zebras or wildebeest or any type of impala or antelope. Look at that paw and see how big it is. On clear days, if you see lions walking in an open area that's not covered by grass, you can see clearly how a paw of a lion looks like. And you look at the base, it got 3 lobes. So there are times when we do a bushwalk or a walking safari, we look at those 3 lobes at the back of that paw, and we can tell it is definitely a cat. But if it's a different animal, for example, hyena, instead of 3 lobes, it will have 2. Same case from the back to the front one, and you can see the paws of these cats or lions are not covered by fur. Rosalind, you sometimes will see flies on the eyes of the lions, and they tend to suck any liquid that, like the tears we have like human beings, is always something that they would always want to suck, and that way they feed themselves. And to a lion, that's an advantage because these flies tend just to clean their eyes. That's the only reason sometimes you will see flies on the eyes of the lions. Sometimes you also see a few of the flies. For example, if you check almost on the elbow of that one there, not as many, but these are very small flies that do not bother the lions. But other bigger flies, for example, the sesa flies or say mosquitoes, they will not come here. As I said earlier, this bush is very good because it keeps them away. If you look carefully on the mouth of that, you can see the whiskers clearly, just like the cats. You see the whiskers there, boys and girls? Kathy, I do not know, but maybe if you're lucky, this one's just licking herself. We see the one licking herself there. I highly doubt lions will be ticklish because, look at how that one is turning, Kathy. It has been sleeping on one side, so just tossing to sleep on the other side. I highly doubt, and unlike human beings where our bodies are not covered by fur, lions, Kathy, as you can see there, they're covered by fur. And I got a feeling they might be, they might not be ticklish. Well, I'm going to remain here with my lionesses for a few more minutes, but I think Sydney got a surprise for you.
I have got a very big surprise. You can see the surprise is not yet open. It is still in the box. Now it's open. Look at that. So I've got one of the lovely cats there, And this cat seems to be looking at something, so I'm not too sure which cat it is. My apology for the poll. The weather is promising some rain, so I've got my roof today. Look at that. You can see that the ears are concentrating, and I saw a duiker just now. Maybe that duiker is what is fascinating this cat at the moment. So here we might see something interesting. I haven't seen a kill for quite a long time, so hopefully this afternoon I might be lucky. Yes, it looks like Thandi when looking at this color. To me it was like maybe it's Thandi, but not too sure. I know that the viewers, when it comes to the identification of these animals, they are much more experienced than I am. This Philemon's Deep. Good afternoon, all stations. This is Sydney. I am by Philemon's Deep with Thandi. So you can see that this cat is up to something. So I've got to wait here and see what is fascinating Thandi at the moment. Good afternoon, all stations. This is Sydney. I have got Thandi by Philemon's Deep. So you can see that the cats, such as the leopard, still when it's dry, they can be able to camouflage. I'm standing by, ascend. I've got Thandi just by the Philemon's Deep. Okay, copy that. You're more than welcome to join. Thank you. So I am now going to keep following Thandi, as I can see that she is heading towards the dry riverbed, and I don't want to lose her. I want to keep this sighting. So now let's go to Tristan, who's got Hosanna at the moment.
Well, yes, we do have Thandi's younger brother, who's, well, not like Thandi at all so far this afternoon. He's being very, very relaxed and is just having a really good nap at this stage. I don't think he's going to really do too much for now. As it gets a little bit kind of darker and starts to kind of get into the night, we might see him wake up and start to move, but for now he's going to just rest. The weather's getting really quite cold now. We're starting to see a lot of rain coming in, and it's getting harder and harder, and so I think it's going to be quite a sort of miserable afternoon, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually curl up in underneath where the rain won't hit him, because if the rain gets too hard, then you'll find the leopards don't really like it, and they'll try and find somewhere where they're able to kind of hide away a little bit. They'll put their heads inside a bush, because the cats don't really like water. It's not their favorite thing, so when it rains you'll find that he'll be a little bit kind of uncomfortable, and he'll try and find a better spot to lie in. So, Brenda, you want to know how old this leopard is? Well, Brenda, that means that you're not really familiar with our leopards. So let me tell you who exactly this is and who Thandi kind of is in relation to him. So this is a little leopard called Hosanna. He's a young male. So he was born in February 2016. So he's 2 years and 8 months now. He's getting quite old, and well, it feels like he's getting old, because it just feels like the other day that he was a little cub, and so he's growing very, very quickly. Now, Thandi, who is his older sister, like I said, she's 12 years old, and so you would think, well, how can she be his older sister? Well, it's quite easy, is that they have the same mother. So both Hosanna and Thandi had a mother called Karula, and Karula was a very successful female. She had lots of different litters in this area, and was probably one of the most successful females in raising cubs that I know of, definitely, and I've spent quite a lot of time in the bush, and so she really was quite amazing. And her first litter that she had, so her first cubs, was Thandi and her sister Shadow, and Thandi basically has lived on the fringe of her mother's territory for quite some time. Then when Hosanna was born, which is Karula's last cubs, unfortunately, she disappeared when he was about a year old, and that meant that, you know, he had to try and find his way at a year old, which is very young for a leopard to look after itself. Normally, the moms will only leave them when they're about 14 months to 2 years, so somewhere in that region, and so it was very young. He had to learn very quickly to be able to survive. And what happened then is that his sister, his older sister Thandi, she came from the fringe of where Karula's territory was, and she snuck in here, and so she is now into exactly where Karula's territory was. That's her kind of territory now, and so they are related. They just have different fathers because of the time frame. So there was not a male leopard that was dominant for that entire time, and so the father of Thandi is a different father than the father of Hosana, but they are still related, and sometimes they even bump into each other, which is quite nice. It's always interesting to watch the way that they interact with one another, and so that's who he is. He's like I say, he's 2 years, 8 months old, to answer your question really, but at least we've given you a bit of background history on who he is, and he really is probably one of the most favorite cats out of this entire area. And it's not just because of who his mom is. Obviously his mom was very famous because of how good she was at being able to raise cubs, but it was also because when this little cat started to grow up, he had a sister, and they were very playful, and they used to be around all the time. And then he unfortunately lost his mom, and then his sister also disappeared, and so he had to live right by himself. And he's very playful, and he's got lots and lots of energy normally, and he runs around all over the place, and he's really kind of one of those cats that makes you just want to spend more and more time with him. So he's an epic cat, and we love spending time with him, and thankfully he has decided to stick around over the last few months. There was a period in this year where around sort of May, where he disappeared for a while. He went off onto another area, and he stayed there until about July, and then he arrived back in this area and has then been here ever since, and almost daily we get to see him, which is so nice. So it's really good to have him. He's not yet a dominant male, which means that he might still have to be, or move on, or be chased away by the big dominant male that we have in this area, but he is growing by the day, and so far his dad, who is the dominant male, is tolerant of him, which means that he allows this young male to walk around here, and so far so good. We're not having any sort of nasty sort of fights between them. They're quite accepting of each other, and that means that this little male so far is staying in our area, which is very cool, because we secretly hope, even though it's probably not the best thing for genetics, we secretly hope that he'll stay around because of how beautiful he is, one, and two, just the way that he is in terms of his character. So hopefully, you know, we'll see that. It's going to be a bit of a while until we kind of see whether or not that happens. Normally, male leopards will only really start to dominate a territory when they reach about 4.5, 5 years old. But this guy might, because he was left a little bit earlier, potentially could have that drive to start establishing himself a little bit earlier. We are already starting to see him scent mark, which means that he goes along and he sprays his urine, and he's trying to establish himself a little territory of his own. And it'll be interesting to see if he starts to call and if he starts to make a little bit of a noise around this area. It'll be very, very interesting. So I'm hoping that he'll be our dominant male leopard going forward. His dad is starting to get a little bit older, and the timing might be perfect for him to take over from dad, as dad starts to kind of lose condition as he gets to sort of 13 years old. So Hosana will be getting just into his prime, and that might be the perfect timing for him to come in and take over. But for now, he's not doing any of that. He's just sleeping very comfortably. He's not getting any sun on him, so he doesn't have to worry at all. Andy, in all likelihood, probably not. When Thandi and Hosana come together, they probably don't know that they are related. There might be a scent. I mean, obviously, it's difficult for us to know these things, but these animals have incredible senses, much better than what ours is. And they've got this organ in the roof of their mouth called the organ of Jacobson. And that organ can tell a lot about the smell of another leopard, particularly their urine. And so maybe they can work out that they had the same mom. I don't think so, though. I think it's more a case that when these two meet, they're not really that aggressive to one another, because Thandi probably still sees him as a young male. And remember, Tandi's probably seen him a lot more than we even realize, and we know that they've spent a lot of time together, particularly when he left when his mom left him. So when he was about a year old, he followed Thandi around a lot and tried to kind of you know, to try and get meals out of her, and kept kind of looking for her. And so, you know, they've been around each other quite often, and that's probably why she's not too worried. And also now he's gotten a lot bigger than her, which makes it quite difficult for her to even try and chase him away. Anyway, talking about Thandi, she is still on the move, and I wonder if she's busy trying to look for food.
You can see that Thandi is now on a move, not too sure where exactly she's going. She's just going all directions. You can see now she's changing, going to the western side of the reserve. And she looks very beautiful today, but she's looking hungry, I can promise you. So she just easily got disappeared. I must just have to keep following so that we can have a better sighting. So kids, don't forget to ask your parents to send us questions on NetGeoKids at wildearth.tv. So you can see that this cat is So Brenda, Thandi is one of those older females here in the reserve. In terms of the years, Thandi, I'm not too sure, but she might be maybe running about 8 years. She is about 13 years. 13 years. So she's now walking in between the bushes. It's very, very much difficult to see her. She's getting very camouflaged. But I can see that she is on a mission. This cat is going somewhere. So maybe she's going to take us to where the small one is, Kalamba. It will be very great seeing Kalamba. It's one of those cats I haven't seen for quite a long, long time. So you can see that she is now going very fast, but with her concentration much more towards the western side. So the wind is getting too much at the moment, so it's quite very difficult for me to hear from far, but I can see what's happening. You can see that she's on a mission going towards the western side. So this cat is now about 12 years. She's just about to celebrate her birthday. She is now going much more towards 13 years. So now let's go to the Masai Mara, where David has got some lions. Maybe the lions are much more active at the moment by the Masai Mara.
Now, boys and girls, I want to tell you something also about the lions. When we started the show with me, we saw these two lionesses, which are still very sleepy, which is very typical of the lions. Then you saw elephants with Sydney, and then leopard with Tristan, and maybe another leopard now with Sydney. And when we started also with me, we also saw the buffaloes. Manu, where are those buffaloes? Let me just first show you the buffaloes before I continue my story. Sorry about my head. Now, you see that huge herd of buffaloes. Those could be very similar to what you'd call the bisons, but here we call them the Cape buffaloes or the African buffaloes. Sometimes we make a joke and we call them our wild cows. Now, my story was going to, in Africa, we got 5 animals that we call the Big 5. And I'll tell you, boys and girls, you're very lucky because of the Big 5, you have seen the Big 4. We got so many people who love coming to Africa to look or to see if they're lucky to get the big five. So you'd imagine just from your homes, you already got the 4 of the big five, which are, of course, the buffaloes, the leopard, the elephants, and the lions. Aren't you lucky? Behind those buffaloes, if you look carefully, there's some other animals that are black and white. Not very clear because they're quite a distance from where I am, but we call them zebras, and I'm sure you know zebras, black and white or white and black. Now we'll come back to our lions, and then I'll explain or keep talking about them because those are the closest that we have from where we are. So that's what I was talking about, the big five, where we have the buffaloes, elephants, lions, and the leopard. You only need one more today and you're going to complete the list of the big five, and I want you to think what could be the 5th of the big five I'm talking about. I want you to crack your head, see whether you can know which one it is, and through your parent or your guardians, send an email to us, nudgeyourkids@worldearth.tv, and tell me which could be the 5th animal that makes the big five. So these lions might continue sleeping there for maybe another half an hour or 1 hour. Thomas, if these lions will wake up now, we always see them going to trunks of big trees and they just grab the trees with their claws, and you just see them clawing or just digging on the trunk of the tree. And I want to show you what I'm talking about. You see like a big tree like that one, Thomas? Yes, that tree there is a fig tree. And I am not sure, you see that part that looks like the bark is worn out, a little bit, looks a bit reddish. Maybe those were lions, maybe not. But what they do, you'll see them just like how you see cats, trying to claw the couches back home or your seat. That's exactly, Thomas, what the lions do. And you'll always see them stretching and going like that on trunks of trees, and then they go like that, and then you see them digging like that. They got nothing to do with that tree, but what they're trying to do is just sharpening their claws. Now these 2 lionesses here belong to a pride that we call the sausage tree pride. When you see females together, you'll call that a pride. That group of lionesses is called a pride. And if you see males together, you'll call that a coalition. Now, this particular pride here has 5 females with them, and it's got 2 small cubs that I've been looking for, and I'm continuing to find out where they are. Now, it's called the sausage tree pride. And just like the tree that I showed you, the sausage tree is similar to that. And because we know these lions or lionesses very well, we have always seen them many times climbing that particular tree, and they will climb on top of it to get some shade, or if they got so many flies on the ground and they get irritated by the flies, they'll climb on the trees to keep away from the flies. Now that one particular type of tree, they love climbing it, and that tree is called the sausage tree, and that's how we ended up naming this particular pride the sausage tree pride. If you look carefully on the end of the tail, you see the black fur on it, and when you're walking on the grass, you'll always see the lionesses or lions flicking their tail up. And as I said, this particular pride has 2 small cubs, and once it raises its tail up, if the cubs, because they'll be too short and like getting lost in the grass, what they keep looking for is the tail that the mother keeps flicking up, and we call that the follow me sign. That tail you see there, so you can see the tall grass there. So if they rise and start walking, and they got young ones, or even among the adults, if the grass is too tall and there's the lead one, so what will happen is they'll use that black tail as they follow me. So Rashida, good trial. Hippo is not a bad guess. I want to thank you very much for trying, but keep trying. Rashida said a hippopotamus, and I said the 5 of the big 5. 1 is only what you're remaining to see, and Rashida said the hippo, not quite, but very close. It's very close to that because somehow it's a bit similar, but the weight, in terms of the weight also, but you're very close. Keep trying to tell me, of the big 5 of Africa, what are we missing? We got the leopard, we got the elephants, we got the lions, we got the leopard. But I can tell you before the end of the drive, we'll definitely tell you the fifth of the big five. Oh, Francis, very well done, Francis. A very big hand from David. Well done, Francis, well done. Yes, it is a rhino. Excellent. And hopefully, let's all cross our fingers that at one point today, before we end the show, we might see a rhino. But Francis, very well done for saying it's a rhino. And I'm sure all of you kids now know the big five of Africa: rhino, elephant, buffalo, leopard, and the lions. So what we're showing you now, it's the beautiful Mara, and that is the savannah. And you can see how beautiful it is. Maybe later on the drive, we might be lucky to show you some wildebeest that you always feel all that area you see there as they feed on the grass. Now, let me take you again all the way to South Africa, to one of the big five.
Indeed, David, with one of the probably the most beautiful members of the Big Five. I suppose it's an argument that can be had depending on who you are. Will depend whether you like lions, leopards, buffalo, elephants, or the rhino. But for me, the most beautiful of them all is this leopard, and he really is kind of one of the best looking leopards we have out here. Yes, I suppose he's still a young male, which means that he hasn't got any scars on his ears or face yet. He's still got a perfect kind of clean little face, and that's why I suppose he looks as good as he does. But he also has the most beautiful orange colored eyes, and his coat and general kind of body condition is also in really good nick, so he's doing just fine. And like I say, it's always a joy to kind of spend time with him. Now, you can see he's kind of sat up a little bit. He had his head up for a little while watching us, but he's decided he's gotten a little tired. Rashida, do we get Emo leopards here in the Sabi Sands? I'm afraid not. So that is a leopard that you only get in a very specific part of the world. None of them occur in Africa. Well, I mean, none of those habitats are in Africa. So, you know, unfortunately, we don't see them. If they were here, they would probably, in all likelihood, not really get very far. And the reason why I say that is because they're a much smaller leopard than these particular savanna cats, and they would probably, in all likelihood, the big leopards that we see here, they would probably do a lot of damage to an emo leopard and probably kill them off quite quickly. So they occur in a very specific part of the world. None of them are in Africa, unfortunately. But it's a tough leopard to go and see. That's not something that, you know, everybody has seen, and definitely not something that will be easily found by anybody. So, you know, you'd have to do a lot of kind of going to very specific locations in order to see them, and have a lot of luck before you'll actually get them. It's really not one of those animals that just is easily kind of, what would you say, easily discoverable or easily seen even where it occurs. So, you know, unfortunately not. It would be nice, like I say, if we did have them. Now, I can see something in the distance that's moving, but I can't make it's a giraffe. It's very, very far away in the distance, and I don't think we'll get a view of it. We've got our rain covers on because it's starting to rain quite a bit. It's not very pleasant out here at all. The rain is kind of picked up, the wind is picked up, and it's sort of whipping around all over the place. And it's part of the reason why Hosanna woke up just now, is because unfortunately our rain roof makes a bit of a noise when it's really windy, and so he just kind of opened his eyes just to see what was going on. Now, Senzo, I don't know, maybe we can get these giraffe. Let's just try and reposition slightly and see if Senzo can show you where they are. It's a bit of a tricky one because they're in a small little gap, and I've got to bring the car around because I don't have the ability to, well, Senzo doesn't have the ability to shoot out through the side of the cars because of the flaps that are down. But all the way in that section over there somewhere is some giraffe that are moving around. Now let's see if we can spot them. Oh, there it is. You see its head moving? I can just see the light coloration of the head that is kind of moving around. And you always think that giraffe would be very easy to spot, but look at that. You can see why spotted patterns and coats make it a lot harder for us to find animals. And so, much like the leopard with its spots, giraffe also have a broken pattern, and it too can blend in very well. So even though there is a giraffe there, not easy to see it. You can just see its head moving around a little bit. There we go. It's popped its head up, which is much better, and then it's going to walk off deeper into the thicket. So I think it's more than just the one there. there's another one next to it. Yeah, so there we go. So Kirsty, who's in final control, which is where our picture goes to be sent to all of you, says she can see another one next to it, which I'm glad Kirsty can see it because I can't at the moment. It's sort of very tricky to kind of see them at all. But our little bit up. Oh, there it is. Yes, now I see it's nice and clearly. That's very cool to see. So a nice little herd of giraffe that's moving around in the background. They're quite common in this area, and you know, we've seen a lot of them of late, which is always nice. It's at this time of the year that we often do see quite a lot of giraffe, and the reason why is that it's now around this time that a lot of the trees start to have their first little leaves come out, as well as flowers. And giraffe, being browsers, they take advantage of that, and so they come through this area and they'll be eating all those tiny new little leaves that are growing because of the rain that we're currently having. We've had a bit of rain over the last kind of week and a half, and that's all starting these trees out on their resurgence from winter, so going from these brown sort of leafless trees to be able to come into the summer months when they're going to be full of green leaves. And it's going to be very pretty out here. And unfortunately, though, in summer, if it was summer, we probably wouldn't even be able to see that giraffe, because all the trees from here to there, they might look dead now, but all of those are going to get nice bright green leaves come the summertime, and so those giraffe would be able to kind of blend in a lot better. Our leopard is completely not fussed by all of this, though. He's just sitting having a really good nap, and the reason why is because those giraffe are so far away, he probably doesn't even know about them. You can see there's all the way across on the other side. You have to come along down into a drainage line and then only up onto this bank and to find him. So he's having a good kind of nap. He's not too phased by the fact that the giraffe all the way over there, and even if they were closer, he wouldn't go anywhere near it. No, I don't think so, to be honest with you. I mean, the distance between where they are and us is massive. I mean, they might have smelt him earlier in the day and now taken a wider berth, but I don't think so. They certainly don't look like they've seen him. Giraffe are quite a nice species for when they see a predator, because they'll all stop and stare in that direction. And so you find the whole grouping will come together and everyone stares in the same place. And so you can see those guys are feeding and moving about, so they don't look like they're too upset by anything, and therefore I doubt that they've smelt or seen Hosanna from where they are. The wind direction is also not quite right. They're a little bit too far to the east. The wind is going in a northerly direction at the moment, and so, you know, it's not really the right way. Anyway, while the little prince sleeps, let's send you back across to Sydney, who's having a tough time keeping up with the Queen.
So I can see that now Thandi, she is in the middle of a hunt. Now she has just stopped. She's looking for something here. Maybe she will be lucky and have something to eat tonight. So you can see that she is concentrating by all means. Maybe there's something here by this drainage line. Brother, the leopards, is very much difficult for them to attack people. So the thing is, all these animals, when I am in the vehicle, when seeing me, they think I am part of the vehicle. They see me with the vehicle as one object. So I am not afraid at all. So this leopard just got disappeared, and here where I am is very much thick, so I've got to try and see if I can have a little space to go in so that we can have a better sighting. So she is gone now deep in the dry riverbed. So I'm just going to keep following until we see where she is leading us to. So this cat has got a cub called Talamba. Maybe Talamba is hiding somewhere in the area. So the rain has just stopped. I just want to quickly fix something here. So I can see that there is a little bit of a problem here with my vehicle. I just want to get off and fix something a little bit. So now let's go to David, who is driving at the moment, trying to find something interesting for you this afternoon.
Nice, kids. It seems everything is going very well. And I was showing you earlier the beautiful savanna of the Masai Mara Triangle. But from a distance, I have spotted a bird that is just walking on the ground there. Do you see that bird there? See how majestic she is? We call that bird the secretary bird. The secretary bird. See how majestic she is walking. It's very interesting how she got that name. Yaska is beautiful looking. They've not, well, they're there, but sometimes it takes us a long time to see them. But sometimes you make a joke and you say they walk like secretaries. You know, long time ago here in Africa, when girls would get jobs as secretaries, they would walk very majestically because secretarial jobs were very important. Now, this bird eats any reptile. Reptile, I'm talking about lizards, for example, or even snakes. So they walk. That's exactly what she is looking for. And if she gets or bumps into a snake or a lizard or a skink, she is going to use her feet and stamp onto it. Pop, 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 pop. And that's how she kills the snake or the lizard and then feeds on it. So as she walks like that, she also goes disturbing the grass. And if she disturbs the grass, something would just come up. Stephanie, well done. You said this is your favorite bird. I agree with you. She is so beautiful. And especially Stephanie, if you see her fly, she flies like a small airplane. So well done to say she's your favorite bird. And to many people in Africa, it is. All birds in the world belong to particular families or groups. Now, as much as you see her walking on the ground, she is related to the eagles, like the American bald eagle. She doesn't have a bald head, but she is related to the eagles. So sometimes we call her the ground eagle. Some of the birds you can tell males from females just by looking at their colors, you know, like black and white or the black and the grayish you see on this one. But this particular type of bird that we call a secretary bird, it is very difficult to tell the male from the female. They are very identical. She's basically looking for something to eat. And as much, you see, she goes, as much as she walks like that, she'll pick something very easily. Tanya, I would say from where we are about 60 yards from where we are. 60 yards. So what we normally do, Tanya, we usually those animals and more so for birds, because if we get close to her, she is going to fly away, Tanya. And I thought we'll stay at a good distance for you to see it. Oh, sorry, Tanya. You asked how tall she is. And let me see. She is about, I would say, 3-4 feet. I would say she's about 3 to 4 feet. That's her height, Tanya. My apologies. 3 to 4 feet. And because of her height, she has the advantage of seeing what's happening on the ground. Let's give her 3 feet. And you can see we make a joke and say they're wearing black skirts. Very majestic when they walk. Ready, Starfire? All the birds in Africa will fly, including the secretary bird. It's only the ostrich that does not fly. And if you see her flying, she flies, I would say, like a caravan. You know, those small planes that we call Vance caravan. They'll always go, get the threshold, get the momentum, then take off. That's exactly how she flies. And on landing, she lands the same way. You see her landing, and then she's taking the landing path slowly. And she doesn't hit the ground and stop there. She hits the ground and keeps moving just like a small plane. So, Lady Starfire, they do fly. They're some of the most beautiful birds to see them flying. But unlike, say, birds like eagles or vultures that will tend to glide, in the air using heat thermals, the secretary bird will always keep flapping. I think either they're a bit too heavy or their wings are not designed to keep them gliding in the air. So they just have to keep flapping their wings. But more often than not, Starfire, I'll tell you, boys and girls, this particular bird, you'll always see her on the ground. And as much as I said she is a ground eagle, we say, we give her that name ground eagle because she spends most of her time on the ground. But once down on the ground, on eating, they'll always go on top of trees where they do their nest or where they make their nest, either to roost or spend the night. You can see carefully she got some feathers hanging behind her head, black feathers. And long time ago, the secretaries who used, in Africa, they used to put pens behind their head just to show everybody how fancy job they got as secretaries. Beautiful sky there. You have been hearing me talking or saying we are in the Mara Triangle. The Mara Triangle is a game reserve that has 3 boundaries, just like a triangle. And one of the boundary or one side of that triangle is that hill that you see there. And that hill or mountain, we call them, is an escarpment actually, and we call it the Olololo escarpment. Boys and girls, can you say that after me? Olololo. One more time. Yes, that's better. So Olololo escarpment is one arm of the triangle or one side of the Mara Triangle. Then we are not very far from... very good. Olololo, very good. I'm not sure that's a tongue twister or it's for some people like us who sometimes, don't make it right. Anyhow, that other side Manu is showing you on the camera, that direction is a country called Tanzania. And there's a national park that borders the Mara Triangle that's called Serengeti. So there's a boundary between this country I am in Kenya and that other country called Tanzania, and that is the other arm of the triangle. Then there's a very famous river in Mara Triangle in Serengeti that's called the Mara River, and that forms the 3rd arm of the triangle. And that's how we end up by saying we're in the Mara Triangle Game Reserve. How beautiful is that? And our secretary bird still continue walking. You can see her running. If she picks something that's running away, for example, an insect or a locust, she makes a quick move, and as it lands, she lands on it and very quickly kills it or subdues it rather using her feet. They got very strong feet. More often than not, they walk in twos, a male and a female, but I do not know, today being a Saturday, the other one might have gone to the market. Not sure it's the male that went to the market or the female. You have to get something. Hopefully she'll be lucky to see her eat something. She keeps looking. Walks, disturbs the grass. Notice how tall her tail feather is. And that one gives them the balance. If they're running on the ground and they need to turn, it helps them to be like a radar to, just to steer them as they run. Because sometimes they choose to chase their food or prey on the ground. It's very unusual for the secretary birds to eat while flying. They'll always feed on the ground. Keep walking, secretary bird. Keep feeding yourself. And let's take you across to South Africa again to Tristan with the leopard.
Indeed, we are still with our leopard, and you can see he's now flopped back down completely once again and is having a really good sleep. But he looks super comfy, I must be honest. I'm a bit envious of him. He almost looks as though he's having a wonderful time, having a bit of a rest. And I suppose if you're a cat in this weather, given that you've got a fur coat, it mustn't be that bad. And it also must be better than when it's 40-degree heat or, 100-degree Fahrenheit heat. It must be much nicer in this weather. So Nancy, I mean, no, his coat is not waterproof, but it certainly will provide a bit of a buffer against the rain. So the water droplets will collect on the coat itself. If it rains hard enough, then they get very wet, and you can see their kind of coat, much like our hair, would be very much the same. Remember that their fur is very much like our hair in many respects. But soft rain like we've had today, well, that won't really seep down into the skin. It will just create a bit of a wetness on the edges of the fur, and then he can groom that off. You'll often find after a bit of rain that a leopard or any cat will spend some time using its tongue to kind of get rid of all the water that's on it and make sure that they keep themselves nice and dry and warm. So it's not 100% waterproof, but it definitely is better than just having no hair at all. So it's like us, you know, your face gets very wet as opposed to your hair. If it's raining, it takes a bit longer for your hair to get very wet, for the water to actually get onto your scalp as opposed to your actual sort of forehead or your cheeks. So it just depends on, you know, how much water it is really, as to if it keeps water off him or not. But it's not a waterproof coat. It's not going to repel water like a waterbuck's coat, where it's going to push water away from the sort of body. And unfortunately, they get enough water on them, they get very, very wet and very drenched, and they look a little bit like they're very unhappy when a lot of rain falls. Their whole coat goes all matted, and it's not a very pretty sight. They don't look very happy at all when the rain falls like that. It looks like, hopefully though, that some of the rain is now passed on. It's cleared up a little bit, which is good news. Yes, they do have spots on their skin. So if you had to shave Hosanna now and take away all his fur, you will find little spots on his skin as well. So it does show on their skin when they are, or when the fur is taken away. And so the only reason we know that is because obviously there's often times where leopards, particularly in captivity in like zoos, have to be operated on, and they'll get shaved, and then you can actually see that there are spots where the sort of skin is as opposed to just where the fur is. But he's obviously having a deep sleep, because I can see his paws every now and then not twitching, so he's having a little bit of a sort of dream there. You can see his eyes are twitching, his paws are twitching, and that's always an indication that a cat is sleeping very, very well, and that they are not having a sort of difficult time sleeping. I'm surprised though, because there's lots of wind about, and generally wind disturbs cats, but he seems to be thoroughly fast asleep at the moment. Hosanna, has it been a long day already today? No, he's not even answering us. He's just having a good nap. He always looks cute when he's like this. You kind of can see his belly is just kind of going up and down as well. Even though it's so kind of cool this afternoon, you'll still see that he's breathing quite fast, and that's because he's eaten a lot, and so his stomach has swollen out, which means that it's pushing up against his lungs a little bit, and therefore the amount of air that he can take in is a little bit less, and so that's why he's kind of breathing quite quickly. If it was very hot today, you would see that he would be breathing a lot faster than that. He would be almost kind of, his stomach would be bouncing up and down at a very quick rate, and that would be obviously to try and kind of control heat as well as the fullness. Afi, yes, indeed they do. So big cats will often eat grass like a domestic cat or house cat will do. You see it quite regularly, and even this male here, I've seen him eat grass quite often, and they do it to try and kind of help cleanse their digestive system. Sometimes it'll even make them regurgitate and get sick, and sometimes that's because they've got hair or bone that they are not able to actually get out of their stomach, and so they just regurgitate it out. But you do see these wild cats, lion, leopard, cheetah, they will all eat grass from time to time. It's quite a common thing to see out here. You don't see it kind of every day, but every now and then you'll find that they do it. What they'll also do, which is quite interesting, is if they have a bit of rain like we've had this afternoon, sometimes the grass will obviously get bits of water on it, or droplets of water on it, and they will actually kind of go along and they'll lick the grass and kind of mouth the grass, and they'll actually get the moisture off it itself, and they'll try and kind of almost drink the water off the grass rather than having to walk all the way to the nearest water point, especially now in winter where the nearest water point's often quite far away. So, you know, they do it from time to time, but at this stage, you know, I don't think he's going to be doing anything right now, whether it be grass or licking of water or anything like that. It seems as though he's going to have a really kind of good nap. Right, it is that time, though, I'm afraid, where we finish up for the day. It's been a wonderful time having you all with us. I hope that you enjoyed another edition of our Kids Safari. It's always nice to have younger minds join us out here in the wilderness. It's always important to educate all of you guys and to hopefully grow a love for nature. So I hope that you've had a really wonderful time. We've seen a lot of amazing things today, between the 2 leopards and all the things up in the Masai Mara and even the Ellies. It's been quite wonderful. So from Sydney, David and myself, it's been, like I say, an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you next week at the same time in the same place. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the sort of normal section of our drive this afternoon. You can see Hasana's still fast asleep. Now, for those of you that have been with us, you'll know that he's been having a good nap, and for all of you that are just joining us, like I say, it's a very, very warm welcome. My name is Tristan, as some of you may know, and if you don't know who I am, like I say, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Senzo this afternoon, and we are coming to you live from not only the Sabi Sands, but Kenya, and that means we would love for all of you to interact with us, so you can do that on #SafariLive or at FC on the YouTube chat. Remember to keep all your questions relevant to what you're seeing on the screen, and we'll hopefully have a good opportunity to go through many, many questions and comments during the course of the next hour. Now, Hosana, you can see, is fat and full and pretty happy. The weather is quite miserable today, and so I'm not surprised that he's passed out the way that he is. He's got a nice full belly, and that's because we know that he was quite a busy boy last night between hunting and killing a impala. He also hunted and killed a wildcat last night, and so the reason why he would have done that, I believe a lot of you are asking about the fact that he killed a wildcat and why he did it. Well, often with leopards, they are very opportunistic animals, and sometimes other cats can be seen as competition, or can be seen as just a animal that needs to be hunted and to be chased after, and when it runs, well, that triggers that kind of hunting response, and so he went after it and killed it and didn't eat it. Now, the reason why he didn't eat it is that probably in this area there's more than enough food at the moment, and therefore he doesn't actually really need to feed off that cat. He probably finds that it's better food out here. But in some areas of South Africa and certainly Africa, wildcats are on the leopard's menu. They get eaten quite regularly. So in the Kalahari system, you'll find that leopards will chase wildcats quite regularly, and they will actually hunt and kill them and consume them. So the fact that he didn't eat it is probably just testament to the fact that he's got more than enough other food out here. Even given now that he's got an impala kill a few hours later, it would have meant that, you know, he knows he can catch probably tastier morsels than that. And it's a pretty typical thing that you see from not only leopard but lions as well, is when there's another animal moving in their vicinity, they will often chase it, whether it be you know, something like a wildcat, a tortoise, you know, anything that's not really their regular meals, they'll still go after it, and that instinct just takes over as that animal runs away from him, and that's why he would have killed it. It is obviously a shame when a wildcat, you know, gets killed, given that we don't see very many of them here. It's not to say, though, that there aren't a lot of wildcats around. You know, at night and things like that, there can be random things that walk around here, and while the wildcat population is probably not huge, it still is fairly decent. I know when we did the gauntlet, there was 3 or 4 sightings of wildcats during the nighttime stuff that we did, or early morning, should I say. So they are around, and it is a shame, like I say, that it was killed, but it is part and parcel of life. It's one of the biggest threats to the wildcat population is leopard, and that's why here in the Sabi Sands they actually don't do that well. It's because there's very high density of leopard, which means that they constantly are in competition and constantly being hunted and chased after. And you'll find that wildcats generally will kind of stick around in more open sections, and I'm very surprised that that wildcat was actually taken. If you have a look at how the whole thing kind of happened, that wildcat walked right up towards the pan, and I think it was so focused on hunting Egyptian goose that was on the edge of the water that it didn't actually even realize that that leopard was there. And obviously we know what kind of happened to it, but it was interesting. I sort of had a look at that wildcat, and Brent showed me, and it's not a small wildcat at all. I know a lot of you thought it might be a young wildcat, but it wasn't. It was in need of a meal, but it still wasn't a small individual. Long legs and really kind of what would I say, an adult individual. But it's a shame though that it was killed. It would have been nice to have had, you know, a really cool sighting of the wildcat on the dam cam and for it to then walk away. But you know, it's not the first or the last time that a wildcat will be killed by a leopard, and you'll find that Hosanna will hunt many other things in his life. He'll go after things like civets, genets, you know, anything really. Leopard has probably one of the most varied diets out of any of the predators out here. In fact, I read a book the other day where they have in a study they found that a leopard preyed upon 37 different other species of mammal, which is quite interesting when you think about it. Now, he goes up. Well, he's tired from all of his antics last night and from chasing that poor wildcat. Right, now while he rolls around and kind of gets comfy once again, let's send you back across to Sydney and see whether or not he's managed to catch up with Thandi.
I have managed to reallocate Thandi. At the moment, I do have Thandi with me. It's just that she is just going using cover by cover, so we might see her at any time. So she's just here, so we're going to see Thandi at any time from now. So it's a little bit thick here where I am. Thandi is alone at the moment, but I can see now she's got a security guard. There is a hyena walking behind her at the moment. So maybe she's going to lead us to Talamba because she's checking, but there is no sign of Talamba here in the area at all. I have been following Thandi for quite a while now. And look at that. This is a beautiful cat. So the hyena is just about 20 meters away from her, right somewhere at the back. It's difficult to see where the hyena is, but it's somewhere hiding behind the bushes. So you can see that I am not alone at the moment by this sighting. I do have some other vehicles who are enjoying the sighting at the moment. So my apologies for the pole. It is raining a little bit here where I am, so I've got my roof on. And welcome to the sighting to my regular viewers. You can send us your questions and comments on Twitter, #SafariLive. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. I am Sydney Niconico, traveling with David, who is my camera operator. So look at that. You can see that this cat has not yet decided where to go. She's just going all directions. And she is very, very much observant. I can see that when she's walking, the ears are like this every time. Look at that. Isabella, indeed, Thandi is quite a pretty lady. She is beautiful. And I'm sure that is why some of the males in the area are always on standby and have a chance from Tingana in order to get hold of Thandi. So I'm just going to pull back now and see if we can make it better, because from here where I am it's quite very difficult to see this lovely cat. Aiden, the leopards, they do poo just like the regular cats. Remember, these kind of cats, they are part of the cats families, so they do more or less the same character. She just got camouflaged. Oh, now there she is. I can see where she is at the moment. Maybe she's looking for Tlalamba because she is just concentrating everywhere. But she's not chaffing at the moment. She's not calling at all. But her eyesight is telling me that she is up to something here. So you can see that now the hyena is just close by, not very far away. He is walking parallel to Thandi. You can see there's a hyena in between the bushes there, but it's just one hyena. So I'm just going to carry on and pull further so that we can have a good sighting. So both Thandi and the hyenas just got disappeared right here. So now let's go to David, who's got the lions. Later on I might be visiting one of the lion prides in the area.
Well, our regular viewers, a very warm welcome to the Masai Mara Triangle, and we're welcoming you with that lioness there, just typical of lions, just laying there, and you know, legs up, which is quite comfortable. I don't know how comfortable she is, but I think she is pretty comfortable when you just lie down, move your paw a little bit, either the back one, the front one, with the beautiful Olololo escarpment in the background. Hello, you're not turn over. Very good. And she disappears, flicks her tail, and she says, it's time for me to have a nap. These three, we've got a pride of lions here. There are three in total. There's that one, and in that bush where Manu is taking us, there are two more girls, the two more females, right inside that bush that we call the orange leafed croton. Very difficult to see them, but they're right inside there. They've been there for the last, what, 3 hours or so. This is one of the best bushes they tend to patronize in terms of, what's that flying there, Manu? Is that a vulture? Well, it's a vulture. Boop. Yes, well done. Good job, Manu. It's a vulture that just landed there. Doesn't mean there could be a kill. Who knows, there could be. But it's a Rupert's griffon vulture that just landed right there. And these three lionesses in a very tough place that is very rocky on top of a hill. It's very difficult to access. And the former pride of lions that we call the sausage tree pride. Ruben, there's one particular male that has always been known to come and mate with the sausage tree pride that's called Kipuli. And the last I saw Kipuli is when he had a very big fight with another young nomadic male. And he fought off two males. He fought one in the morning and he fought another one in the afternoon. And that could be like, what, 2 weeks ago? And since then, I have not seen that male, Kipuli Ruben, but he is not very far from where we are. This is his area and this is where he reigns territory. And definitely at one point, I'm sure he might show up. Should any of the three females here, become in estrus, and they will need to mate. Kipuli will be the most right candidate for them to mate with. So these 3 lionesses here belong to a pride of lions that we call the sausage tree pride, and there are always 5 in total. We got 3 now. 2 could be elsewhere, and 1 of the other 2 that we don't have here has 2 small cubs that we saw yesterday, but today they have not shown up. I want to believe they're somewhere hiding. And you realize, unless you see her flicking her tail or ears, she blends in very well in that tall red oat grass. If the wildebeest would have come across this grass, they would have eaten it and made it very short. But again, as I said, the place is very rocky and full of small little boulders, and most hooved animals will try as much as they can to avoid such areas because they easily sprain or fracture their legs. Turn around, boom! And see, the belly is much lighter in color than the rest of the body. And this is one feature that helps us to spot lions from a distance. And it comes out, quite conspicuous, doesn't blend in very well with the grass, and even without binoculars, we can see her. If Manu move to the left a little bit, I don't know whether there's the other one there. Well done. See, we got 2. Cool. And apparently both of them, either they need to warm their bellies now. Manu, do you think that makes sense? Their backs have been very warm for the better part of the day, and now they think they need to lay on their backs and warm their bellies. And taking every part of, bit of the solar energy before the sun goes down and the warmth of the air disappears or goes. We started with very high temperatures of about 30 degrees or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, but I think now it has definitely cooled. But for these cats, I think the bellies to me usually have less fur than the backs, and for that reason they want maybe to have an even amount of heat on their bodies. So these are 2, and there's a 3rd female hiding somewhere to the right of these 2, forming the sausage tree pride of lions. And I'm trying to do anything possible to get the other 2 that are not here, because one of the 2 has 2 small cubs that were very playful yesterday. All right, hi there. Where is your sister or your first cousin? But I'm so convinced he is not very far from here. With cubs, I'm sure the sisters, or if these are the 3 here, are cousins, first cousins of that one, they'll always make sure they stay very close just to help her should there be a situation to protect the cubs. Now I'm going to sit here a little bit longer or move around to see if they could see the one with the cubs, but in the meantime, Sydney's spotted cat is on the move.
I am still after Thandi. Thandi, who is looking very much confused. I'm not too sure if now Thandi is looking for Tlalamba hiding somewhere here or still doing the hunting activities, but she is looking very much confused at the moment. Maybe Tlalamba is going to come out in this area. So you can see that she is concentrating highly on something here. So this is one of the very skillful cat when it comes to the hunting activities in the area. So you can see that she is looking up to something. So you can see now she's going underneath that little bush. Maybe there's something there. And she's just sniffing the ground there. Maybe she's getting information. Maybe that is where she left the little one earlier on. So now I can see the mood is not about hunting activities anymore. She's got an agenda here. She is maybe looking for the little one. So I hope she's going to bring us Kalamba out for us to see, as is one of those cats that I haven't seen for quite a long time. So you can see that I am not alone at the sighting. There is some other vehicles here also enjoying sharing the same sighting as me. So she is looking at something. I can't see what that is, but I can see that the aim of the eyes and the movement of the ears is telling me something, and she's going right there where she was concentrating. So I'm going to keep following and see where she is going and what she is looking for. So now let's go back to Tristan, who is having Hosanna eating something by the tree.
We've got Hosanna up in the tree at the moment. He's busy feeding on his impala kill. We had a few little gremlins that creeped in that we had to sort out, and that's why, unfortunately, we didn't get him going up. But he's up now and has started to kind of feed off the back end. There's still so much meat on this that he's got a long, long way to go until he finishes it. He's also got a very full tummy, which means that it's going to take a while till he gets through all of that. I wouldn't be surprised, though, that his dad arrives at some point. You know how he's got a nose for a carcass, so imagine Tingana won't be around. Well, if this stays up the tree for 2 days, might find this too. And obviously his older sister is all over the place, and she could very well also end up in this area. The last time we know that she was with Kalamba was up on this side, actually. It was not too far from here, and so she could have left Kalamba on this side and is now kind of marching her way back into this area. It's difficult to say, really. But either way, Hosanna at least has woken up and decided to start feeding. Now, the thing is about his feeding and where he is at the moment is that he has got to be in possibly one of the most awful trees that we probably have in here in terms of being able to see a leopard in it. It really isn't very nice at all. And so, Lyde, you want to know what tree it is at the moment? Lars, not Lyde, sorry. Lars, so it is a saffron that is in at the moment, and it really is not a very pleasant tree for carcasses to go into. They really don't kind of show very well because they've got lots of little trees or lots of branches all over the place, and it makes it very difficult to actually see anything. So you can see it kind of draped over the sort of main part of it, and while it's a great tree for a carcass to be draped in for a cat to be able to feed off it and hide his kill away and not make it very obvious, it would have been much nicer had he dragged it up into a marula tree that was nice and open, because, well, that would have made life a lot easier. Now you might hear a few vehicles moving around next to me. They're just all repositioning as everybody kind of gets into place. There's 2 vehicles that have kind of just joined us to come and see Hosanna up in the tree. So Aiden, who's 7 years old, wants to know whether all the fur will hurt his tummy by eating it all. So Aiden, no, and the reason why is what happens with a leopard is they have a very strong stomach, so their stomach is used to eating fur, and so the fur that they can't digest, they will regurgitate, and which means that they'll basically get sick, and they'll kind of come out their mouth, all that hair and bone, and the rest will kind of, he'll just, you know, poop out, and he won't have to worry too much. So it won't hurt his tummy, no. You'll find that he'll be okay, and because they do this all the time, they basically get quite used to it, and they will be able to kind of feed off it, and it doesn't hurt them. If it hurt them, you'd find that they wouldn't really have survived very well, because, you know, that's all they do, is they eat meat, and fur well, animals that have fur, and so they get in their tummy quite a bit. Now, I can't see what he's actually eating at the moment. It looks like he's eating maybe some of the stomach content that's inside there. It doesn't look like, I can't see, is it the liver? Yes, it is the liver by the looks of things that he's gotten, and now that will be a really good piece of meat for him to have that's full of nutrients. And so the things like liver, kidneys, those are the things that a leopard loves to eat. So nothing like a bit of liver on a Saturday afternoon to make one's sort of stomach feel fantastic. If you're a leopard, it's a delicacy, you know. So it's like when you are having a Saturday afternoon get together and you make your favorite food. For a leopard, that's, well, as good as it gets, is a little liver and kidney action. So you'll find he'll eat that. He'll also eat any of the other internal organs that are in there, the heart and the lungs, and even things like the stomach lining will be fair game for a leopard. They will consume stomach linings because they know that there's still nutrients within it, and any nutrient they can get is good nutrients, and so they will eat all of that. Now, I'd imagine most of the stomach is out, though, given the way this is kind of hoisted over the tree, and then the sort of flatness of that stomach. If you look where his paw is, I would imagine that most of the kind of the four-chambered stomach that an impala has already been pulled out and dropped. And I wonder, you know, how quickly he managed to get this up into a tree, because, you know, hyenas would have been lurking about, and I don't see any hyenas around now, which means that maybe they didn't even know about it, and he actually had time to kind of feed off it a little bit and get it up. And you can, just goes to show that even though it's a big female impala, who, you know, is quite a large animal, it just goes to show how much easier that it is for Hosana to get up a tree as opposed to something like that female Nyala that he lost to hyenas the other day. So he's still got to grow a little bit before he can pull up big kind of female Nyalas, but a female impala is certainly within the realms of his strength, and he's able to do it. I have to say, I wonder if this poor female wasn't pregnant and maybe ate the fetus, and that's why he's actually got quite a full belly, given the amount of meat that's still on there. It doesn't look like he's eaten a lot, so I wonder if he didn't eat a fetus inside this female. It is that time of the year where they are pregnant. I know it's a bit macabre, but it is the truth. So Tucker, who's 6 years old, the leopards, sometimes they get a little bit stuck, but generally they can kind of force their way through. So they'll try and kind of push their head through, or if they get caught on a thorn, they'll just kind of pull until they get loose. So sometimes they get themselves into a bit of a tangle in these trees, Tucker, and it can be a little tricky to go up and down, particularly a tree like this. This is not a nice tree for a leopard to climb around, and you'll find that he'll have to kind of push his head through the thorns, and sometimes his foot will get stuck a little bit, or his tail, or even his head, and you'll find that it's not very comfortable for him. It'll be a much better tree to go and climb somewhere else, but you know, it's a good tree for him to be able to keep his kill and to make sure that his kill does not get dropped and kind of stolen by hyenas. So even though it's not a nice tree for him to be in, it's not a bad sort of tree to hang a carcass in, and hopefully he won't get stuck up there. It will be very sad if Hosana gets stuck. I don't like the fact of thinking that he'll be stuck up there, but I think he'll be alright. I mean, he's been up and down a few times now, and so he should be quite fine to be able to come down again and onto the ground. But isn't that cool? You can see there's still, like I say, a lot on that particular impala. There's a bit of the stomach that we were talking about earlier. I think even some of the kidneys might still be attached to that, so if you're a bit squeamish, I do apologize. Maybe best not to look at it at the moment. And you'll find that those will be kind of parts that he will eat. I am of the firm belief that she had a fetus, and that's why his stomach is as full as it is, because he would have eaten a quite well developed fetus by now. You must remember that the impalas will be giving birth late November, and so that fetus will be big, and so if he eats that, he would have been quite sort of full already from just that. And given that there's still stomach content in this particular impala, the back legs are still okay, I don't think he ate too much of this to have the bump that he's got. And we know that when he arrived at the pan yesterday, he didn't have a massively full stomach. What are you doing, Hosana? Now it almost looks as though he's kind of eaten too much from the midriff, and it's actually sort of pulling apart a little bit, and that's why he's trying to just get it into a slightly better place. And now you're going to see him plucking the fur, so he's using his front teeth, which goes back to what we were saying earlier. If they do eat the fur, you know, it's not really what they want to eat. They can get digested and get rid of it, but they'll try and pluck most of it off first. So Alex, yes, they will eat the brain. They will crush the skull and try and get to the brain. It depends on the size of the animal, obviously. Some antelope species have got much smaller skulls, which are easier for a leopard to get into, whereas bigger animals, something like a nyala, would probably be a bit difficult for them to get to the brain, and they wouldn't be able to. But yes, if they can crack that skull open, they definitely will eat the brains itself. Right, now while Hosana has got himself a meal, it sounds like Thandi is still trying to find a meal of her own. So let's go across to Sydney and see how she's going.
Thandi is now doing some hunting activities. I can see she's going very, very fast. I've got to reverse a little bit here so that we can have a good visual, but I can promise you she has spotted something, and she is very much active at the moment. She is very, very much active at the moment. She has spotted something somewhere in the drainage line. So you can see that she is right there, and her positioning is telling us that she is looking at something. Look at that. So maybe it was a decker or something, because I saw the movement of some of the animals here now, but it was too quick. I couldn't see what the animal was, but there were some activities right where she is at the moment. So you can see that she's still having interest. The tail is telling you that she is interested on what she's looking at the moment. So look at that. You can see again she is moving very fast. Look at that. So it means she can still see the target from the bushes there. Big cat love, they can be able to conduct some hunting sometimes. Like now, she is hunting and there is a hyena nearby. So you can see that she is just proving us right that she can do some hunting activities with the hyenas nearby. Is what is happening now. So I'm just going to try by all means and reverse, go to the other side so that we can have a better sighting. So it is happening right here. So this cat, her main focus is much more this side. I can see now that she is right in the middle of the bushes, trying to use the bush as a cover. She doesn't want to be spotted at all. So let's see where this is going to lead us to. Oh, she caught something. She caught something. There she caught something. It is a scrub hair. She caught a scrub hair. Look at that. You can see that the scrub hair is right on the mouth. So she managed to catch something at the moment. Congratulations to Thandi. Now she's got something to eat. But the scrub hair is too small. I don't think she's going to manage to feed the little one, the cub, Kalamba, as well. So you can see that now the scrubby has been caught and is just about to give the last kicks now. So that was too quick. So Thandi is one of the successful hunters in the area. So she is so very much skillful, as I indicated earlier. So she managed to take down a scrub hair. So, but that scrub hair looks big. Look at that. Yeah, a very big sorry for the scrub hair. Unfortunately, this is how it works in the bush. It's survival of the fittest. So for these leopards to survive, they must have to depend on this prey animals. So I just want to see where this cat is gonna drag this scrub hair to. So it might not be very easy to eat the scrub hair. The scrub hair has got quite a lot of hairs on them, so to get rid of those hairs must be quite a very big mission. Maybe scrub hairs are part of those animals that build quite a lot of hair balls on these cats. The leopard strike is very much strong, and also if you can check the front legs when the claws are out, just one slash they can be able to kill something small like a bird. So they are very much powerful animals. So you can see that it's tough for the leopards who are very solitary to go out just by themselves for hunting purposes. So now that Tandy managed to catch something very small, I think it's very easy to protect it. But if it's something very big, still got to drag it up into a tree. And hyenas mostly, they come very quickly. I'm very surprised where that hyena is, because it's not here at the moment. Normally... Oh, the scrub bear is still... Look at that. The scrub bear is not dead yet. So that's why he's just holding it. So you can see that that scrub bear was just now giving some last kicks. And I could hear the scrub bear making some noise. It's the first time today for me to hear the scrub bear making that kind of a noise. That was a distress call. So this cat can be able to feel that this animal is still alive. So that's why he just keep holding it. So those kind of calls we heard earlier are some of the calls which normally attract the scavengers to come to the area. So the hyenas, I am hoping for them to come here. So we're expecting their arrival at any time, because I think the distress call was too loud. So Tandy has just proven us that hunting activities can be conducted during the presence of the hyenas in the area. So now, while I'm still waiting for what is going to happen next, let's go back to Hosana, who has already got a meal at the moment.
Well, he does, and isn't that epic that she managed to get herself a meal too? Seems like everybody's winning today in the spotted world, and I wonder if she's going to take it back towards wherever Kalamba is hiding out. It'll be really nice if she does, but it's perfect conditions, I suppose, for hunting. If you think about, that we've had Hosana kill twice last night, overcast, cloudy conditions with a bit of rain is always good hunting weather, and I wouldn't be surprised that most of the leopards are sitting on kills somewhere, and it can just go to show how difficult it can be to find these guys. Now, we're very lucky that Hosana killed this right next to the road, and that he didn't have to really kind of search too much, but had he killed this, let's say 150 meters to our sort of east from here into this big thick block on the other side, it would have been really tricky to have found him, particularly with the way that the roads are so hard after the rain, and so this is when weather like this is often why we don't actually see as many leopards as we do when it's drier conditions. So in the summer months, when it rains a lot more frequently and it gets a lot thicker, we sometimes struggle to find these guys, and that's because they'll kill something like this in a big block and they'll spend 3-4 days inside there there and you don't actually know where they are, and it becomes quite tricky to find them. So we're just very fortunate with Hosana today, and also that it's still quite dry, that he'll have to go for water. I wouldn't be surprised that after this feeding session that we see now, he'll come down and maybe groom himself, and we might see him then walk off towards sort of Gowrie Dam or Telepan and go and try and have a bit of a drink of water. You know, his kill's fairly safe up there, and while he does get a lot of moisture requirement that he needs from this carcass and the blood of this carcass, he'll still go and try and get water from a water point, and because there's nothing in the bush around him here, he'll need to walk towards the pan to get it, to be able to secure some good sort of watery resource. Anthony, because they like to. No, I'm joking. The leopards don't need to eat all the time. They're just going through a purple patch at the moment, and because they can sometimes go a week without food, anytime there's an opportunity to hunt, they will take it. Now, we're seeing a lot of leopard on kills at the moment because we're right at the back end of winter, which means that the prey species like impalas and scrubhares and all these things are at their weakest at the moment, which means that it's much easier for the predators to chase after them. They're not as physically fit. The other side of it is that, especially in the impala world, a lot of the female impalas are much heavier than what they normally are because they're pregnant, and that slows them right down. And so the cats are taking advantage of that and killing because of it. And you'll find that, like I say, sometimes they go a week without food. In summer it becomes a lot harder for a lot of the animals to find food, particularly the cats. Obviously the herbivores have it much easier, but the cats will find it's a lot harder, and so they don't always get it right. And so sometimes they're quite skinny before they get a meal, and it's just lucky that this time of the year we'll often see this kind of behavior where we just get so many more kind of scenes of them actually feeding on carcasses as they take advantage of the weaker conditions of the prey species that inhabit these areas. So they don't eat all the time. We know with Hosana that, when was he on his last kill that we saw? It was a while ago. It's a good 3-4 days since we've seen him on his last kill. In fact, actually, I think it might even be longer than that. So it's not always that we see them on kills. It's just that we see different leopards on kills. So this week we've had Tingana, we've had Tandi, we've had Hosana, we've had Kuchava, and they've all been on kills, but none of them have been on kind of consecutive meals every single day. They've just kind of finished their meals up, and then we haven't found them for a few days, or they kind of go looking for food or scent marking or whatever the case may be. What's really interesting though is the difference between the male leopards and the female leopards. If you look at the kills that we've seen from Tingana and Hosana this week, both of which have been very big impalas. One was a big male impala that Tingana had, and Hosana now has a very big female. Whereas you compare that with Kuchava and Tandi's gone after a scrub hare today, and Kuchava had a little steenbok. So the females tend to target smaller prey species that they can get up into trees quickly, consume quickly, and then move off, whereas the males tend to try to go after bigger things because they have the ability to protect their kills probably better than what the females do. Anyway, we're going to sit with Hosana as he gulps down more meat. In the meantime though, let's send you across to Tandi, who's doing the exact same thing.
So you can see now that Tandi is having a snack, so he's just having the scrub here now. And she's not worried about the rivals at the moment. She's on the ground, not even taking the prey up into a tree. So it means it's something that she saw, she calculated that it's not going to take time. And she's eating very fast. Look at that. Oh, she's just looking at a bed. Now she's still taking some hairs. So it's quite a very big job in order to deal with the scrub hare. As I indicated, the scrub hare has got quite a lot of hairs. So you can see that she is concentrating every time. So don't get surprised, I do have some other vehicles here enjoying the same sighting. Ninamu is not very easy for the food to get stolen from the leopard unless they lose it from a tree, because they are very much quick. Yes, sometimes they do lose the food, but that is not something happening very often. So if the hyenas come here, we are going to see something very interesting, because Thandi has to defend the scrub here, or else maybe she might go up into a tree. I can see that where she is, there's a very big tree nearby. Maybe that is the tree she identified for safety purposes, for in case if the hyenas come here. So it is very much surprising seeing that the kill has been done, and it has been a while ago now, and none of the hyenas is here. But short earlier, before the kill, we saw the hyenas behind Thandi. So it's also not fair for Thandi to cook something and just eat all by herself. When having a cub, she must also think about kalamba. So unless she's just having a snack in order to get more energy, in order to conduct more hunting activities today. So you can hear the bones crashing. Yeah, we can hear them, and the distance between us and this cat is just about 10 to 15 meters, but we can still hear the bones from that distance. So now let's go to the little chief Osana, who is eating a big animal.
He is indeed eating a big animal, and he's making short work of it. So we're seeing him kind of just chewing through this quite rapidly. He's sort of going now through the ribs, which is an area that they often do feed off. You'll see they'll eat the kind of back straps of this impala, and then slowly along the sides, and then they'll start to break ribs off and start to feed off that intercostal muscle. And then obviously the ribs themselves often are break or small enough that they can actually break them down and kind of feed off them quite nicely. So he's just getting all the choice pieces at the moment, and he'll be a very happy cat, that's for sure. The nice thing also is, because of the weather that we're having, it means that he actually doesn't have to stress too much in terms of it going off or it kind of drying out. It's going to be nice and fresh for the next couple of days if this weather continues. Paula, will his leopard split up a kill between two different trees? It can happen. Generally, when that kind of thing happens, it's normally either if there's two leopards in the same place and one is kind of dropped a piece and the other one grabs it and takes it up a tree, or if it's a mother and cubs, that does happen. But somebody like Osana with a kill like this, probably not, unless of course it drops and hyena tries to get to it and he runs down and grabs it and puts it up in another tree in haste, then possibly. But it's not very common to see that at all. You generally will find that leopards like to keep their kill in one tree. Normally what happens, if it does drop, they'll grab it and put it up, and you might get two sections of the carcass in the same tree, but two different trees is not that common. I have seen it though, from time to time, and normally it's when it's two leopards there, so either, like I say, a mother and cub, or let's say Hosana Tingana or Hosana Thandi or something like that might lead to that scenario taking place. But it's not that common that you would see it. But Hosana looks very happy where he is at the moment. He's kind of tucked in, and at least the one thing about him being in this particular tree is that even when it's raining, because it's so kind of foliated and branched, he's at least got a bit of protection from the rain. And so unlike poor Tingana earlier in the week, who got kind of very unimpressed with the rain when he was feeding, Hosana, you can see, is not too perturbed by it at all, and is just really kind of going through as much of that meat as you can. You can see the big kind of rich dark red meat on the back there, and that would be the equivalent of basically a fillet steak, and so that's what he's kind of busy eating at the moment, and just trying to get all of that nice nutrient rich muscle. Right, so Hosana continues to guzzle down as much meat as he possibly can, and is trying to kind of get it all down. And I suppose where David is up in the Mara, he's with a very sleepy lion, and I wonder if it's dreaming about a big impala carcass like Hosana has.
Well, Hosana, I'll tell you bon appetit, bon appetit. And I do not know whether you can see there in the screen. It's getting a little bit dark here, and maybe we might have gone to IR because of the distance and the darkness. And those are wildebeest in the background there. But we have this lioness here that is just watching them. For anybody, or for some of the viewers who are joining us now, we got the sausage tree pride of lions. And we got 3 females of the total 5. And they're just watching those wildebeest from a distance. Remember, this is a very interactive safari, and you're always welcome to ask us questions, send your question through, or you can give your comments, #SafariLive. It's very typical for lions. If they're full and they're not thirsty, they're in the right safe place, just go flat and sleep. It's just one of them. The other 2, if you look at them, you'll notice they're just flat down. Okay, that one has put her head up, but the third one, I can't even see it. It's so dark. Let's see whether the man will be able to locate it. Just having a nap. Maybe that bush, maybe to the right. So there are 3, and this spread of lions, we call them the sausage, or we call it the sausage tree pride. Has a total of 5. 2 are not here, and one of the 2 has 2 small cubs that's about 3 months old. For those of you who have been following us with the sausage tree pride, the 2 that I don't have, one of them is the kingtail. There's one that have like a knot on the tail, which I think is the oldest of the 5 females, and that one has decided to do what lions are known to do most, just going flat. That way they conserve their energy, and if they would have eaten, they just want to lay down there, keep adjusting what they have slowly before maybe going for a meal. We saw that herd of wildebeest crossing there, and they're not bothered, you know. Paula, I would say, to me, lions get darker as they age. Lions get darker as they age, and when they're small, you have noticed when they're cubs, you can always see the spots on them, and then as they grow, the spots tend to disappear. But I've seen the darkness being more conspicuous in the males than the females. I'm not sure just to relate that to all the cats, but as they get older, they get darker polar. And it's always more conspicuous in the males than in the females. Just time to sleep. But when it cools off now, those wildebeest were just passing so close to where these lionesses are. They just woke up, looked at them, and they just saw them pass. But again, you know, you never know what they might do later. Let's find out if maybe Sydney's cat, which is more active, is up to anything.
So you can see that now Tandy is still trying to finish the scrub here, and I'm not too sure about how much is left there, as I can see that she is hiding away everything against the ground. So I've seen some other small prey passing by nearby on a distance. I've seen one small nyala as well as one small daycare, so don't get surprised. There are some spotlights at the moment, as I do have some other vehicles here with me enjoying the same sighting. Child of the universe, the leopards don't really attack the tall animals such as the giraffes by the trees. Giraffes are one of those animals with a very good eyesight because they've got a wide vision. They are so very much tall. So up by these trees, they can be able to see these predators. And predators, they also secrete some kind of smell which can also assist the prey animals and the giraffes as well in order to detect them from a long distance. So there is too much wind blowing up in the air by the trees, so these giraffes can easily spot these big animals. So that's why it's very rare to see the giraffe feeding from where the cat has got a kill. Now this is a lovely sighting. I am very much interested to see how much is left there, but considering the positioning is very much difficult to see. So if you look at the color of these cats versus the color of the grass, you can see that these cats can be very much camouflaged. It's easy to go past Tandy at the moment. And still no sign of the hyenas coming here to challenge Tandy at the moment. She's just enjoying her meal just by herself. So to witness a kill is something very much rare. It doesn't happen every day because most of the time we mostly arrive by the kill when it's done already. So today we have just witnessed it happening as it happened. Paula, the animals, when it comes to the black and white, it's very much difficult for a lot of them to distinguish because if you can check at night, they can still see very well. So, but some of the animals can be able to distinguish some of the colors. So you can see that this cat is just finishing that scrub hair non-stop. But it's not making a huge difference by the stomach. Maybe she heard something coming. So now let's go back to Tristan, who is having Hosanna at the moment, also feeding on something very big.
Indeed, we do still have Hosanna, and look at that, he's just giving us his big eyes as he cleans himself. He's decided to stop feeding now. He dragged his carcass up further into the tree for some random reason. I don't know why, but I suppose it's far more hidden now and it would be a lot more difficult for the likes of Tingana or Tandy to spot it from where it is now. So I suppose that's maybe why he did it. But he's found himself a nice comfy branch where he's settled, and he's now just grooming himself, trying to get all that blood and stuff off of him. Francis, this is a funny question because I have never been asked this question, and this week I've been asked it twice. And so you're asking if a leopard would burp after a good heavy meal, and so no, the answer to that is I have never seen them belch, burp at all. Sometimes they get the kind of hiccups where, you know, almost like a bit of indigestion from eating too fast, much like we do. But I've never seen a leopard kind of burp or belch or anything like that. So it would be quite, I suppose it would be quite weird to see them do it. Normally, for some reason, they're able to just kind of deal with it and be able to kind of process what they need. So, no, unfortunately not. It's not something that you get to see too often. Hello, sleepy boy. Are you going to have a good nap now? He is so funny, this cat. You can't get yourself comfy Hosana. It's because your belly is about twice the size of your body now. He really did eat quite a bit there. Even though it was a short period of eating, he put a lot of food in very, very quickly, and he's managed to kind of swell that belly out. You can see how it's kind of flopped over the tree. He really has gone into full sausage mode. He's just like his dad in many respects. You can also see that his dewlap every day is starting to get bigger. Look at that. You can see that little fold of skin coming down. Yes, quite cool to see. So I always get excited when we get to see kind of the way that Hosana goes about things and the way that he gets. Now, you might notice a spotlight there. That's just obviously because we're very fortunate in that we can see things in infrared and the likes, whereas the people that are out here are not able to do so, and so they will use a spotlight. Now, I believe a lot of you are saying that your dogs burp when they eat, and well, that's quite interesting. I honestly have never seen a leopard do it, and like I said, I've spent a lot of time with leopards, so I'm quite surprised by that. Anyway, Hosana is repositioning himself. I think it's time for him to kind of find a bush to go and sleep, and it's also time, unfortunately, for us to say goodnight, as we are going to get ready for another rehearsal for our SABC debut tomorrow. And so it's been a wonderful afternoon with lots and lots and lots of things going on. Hosana being his usual full of nonsense self, Sandy hunting, and well, all the magic of the Mara. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope that you've thoroughly enjoyed this Saturday afternoon, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning for our sunrise safari.